This conference will now be recorded.
It is 6 o'clock. I will call the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Everyone will please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for an opportunity to try to make this town a little bit better every day. Father, keep us safe, keep us healthy, and continue to bless us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have under the agenda approval, got a little mixed up with our holidays and stuff, but I wanted to add a discussion item with basically until we get to it, it's a business committee roundtable discussion. So if we can make a motion to do that, that would be great.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to amend tonight's agenda to add a C or an A item under discussion items, business committee roundtable.
Thank you. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Minutes approval from July the 2nd, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Public comments on agenda items.
Sean Fallon, 411 Cedar Drive North. I wrote this because I didn't want anybody to misinterpret what I'm about to say, because we all know how social media gets involved in all our business. I'd like to address my actions rate ordinance 24-0969, section 17-427 during a council meeting. My intentions were not to omit the planning commission with this section. The modifications of this was I was just trying to align one ordinance with two other ordinances to line up the wording. It come to my attention because I was told through Facebook that I didn't know my job. So it was a lesson learned and it won't happen again. Well, yeah, I will make mistakes again. But I'm a team player. If anybody ever has a problem with me, I have no problem talking to anybody. I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong. So I really would appreciate if people would come to me directly. I know there's always room for improvement. My legs are still wet. You know, it's November, now it's spring, and I do have a lot to learn. But I do surround myself with a lot of good people. A lot of people came to my defense and gave me direction how I should move forward, and I appreciate that. So there's more team players in this town than not. So, like I said, jokingly, if you want to fire me, you can fire me, but you really can't because you don't pay me anything. But to be very frank, I really, every night I think about this town, and I pray and hope this town gets built with more team players like yourselves than the negativity nonsense that's been going around. So please, if you ever have anything that you want to discuss with me, you see me in my yard, pull over in your golf cart, call me, email me, I will talk, and I will be the first one to say I was wrong. Because I like improving every day. So I appreciate this time to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Down to the business items. Chapter 17, ordinance language, ordinance 24-0969, an ordinance of the town of Surfside Beach to amend certain sections of chapter 17, 17-427, zoning of the code of ordinances of the town of Surfside Beach, South Carolina. I'll turn it over to
Okay, this is a fairly
Ms. Heather.
simple ordinance change. As Ms. Fallon mentioned, we're trying to match, there are two other areas in separate ordinances that do not match. They just speak about housing derelict vehicles in an enclosed garage. And they don't have the, or substantially covered by an opaque canvas or similar type cover. And that's really what we're looking at here. And then also under boats and boat trailers, we did strike through the language there because we don't want it to be anything, an opaque canvas or similar type cover, as those get tattered, they fall off, they don't necessarily cover the vehicle. So we're asking that the or substantially covered be removed from the ordinance and it just leave the house in an enclosed garage. And that's for derelict and unlicensed vehicles, and the same with boats and boat trailers.
any questions for Heather?
Mr. Chair,
Alex?
so with the strike-throughs as written, how does that change the scenario with the initial property that raised all these questions? A little bit of a loaded question because that property is cars that are backed in. We can't enter the property to see if it's unregistered. So even if we made this change, this doesn't, in my eyes, if I'm reading right, that doesn't change our ability to take action on said property.
If there is a complaint, we would be able to, once this ordinance is, we will be able to address that.
I think legally, and the attorney agreed, the town can't walk on someone's property.
Oh, yeah, as far as like,
Someone's call.
and I'm actually thinking that the property that you're speaking of, we're currently in the process of working with them. We were starting the abatement process, but we've given them a certain number of days to actually work on cleaning up their stuff. And they have, from what I've been told, I've not personally gone and seen it, but that they're starting to move this stuff into the backyard. I don't know that the cars have been moved yet, but that is something that we are trying to work on and that we're actively working on. I spoke with Chris about that particular property today. But I don't know how it would change existing if we can't just go on and.
Yeah, I think if it can't go on, I'm glad there's movement there and there's conversations happening as it should, but I don't think any of the strike-throughs really change much, other than the fact that if probably half the houses in town don't, maybe a little less, don't have a garage, then those individuals would not be able to have an unregistered vehicle
That's right. Oh, yeah.
under any circumstances. But if I wanted to have an unregistered vehicle and I don't have a garage, all I need to do is back my car in. So like
We have
it is,
technology.
we're just changing words, but we're left with the same outcome at the end of the day. That's kind of how I'm reading it.
Without a warrant, they can't
Right.
go onto the property, right?
The only way, I thought about this a little bit, the only way I could see allowing someone without a garage to have a certain limit or zero unregistered vehicles is if the town took the stance of guilty until proven innocent. If we suspect you don't have a registration on that vehicle, we're going to send you a letter. You need to prove it within 10 days. That's the only possible way the town can legally do, and that's kind of not really. there's really not an
I was gonna
enforceable
say, I
way.
don't think there's a way to do that.
Yeah, there's no enforceable way. If I backed an unregistered vehicle up against my fence and no one could see the status of my license plate without stepping on my property, the town could never do anything about it. Ever. Regardless of ordinances.
Is that something that can be looked up in county records or state records? Yes.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I think there would be a way to find out the information, to research the information without having to physically walk on the property. I don't necessarily know that to be true.
So I did that with the said property. I tried to find out, but you'll never be able to prove that that's my vehicle.
Yeah.
You have to know the owner of the vehicle's name,
Okay,
right? So, or
So
the
if it's not
address the
the same,
vehicle's
yeah.
registered to.
and
That
it might
doesn't
not
mean
be,
anything.
yeah.
My brother's car has been parked there, it's registered, it's been parked there for 6 years. Yeah. Prove it. Like, without stepping on my property, you can't
Yeah,
prove what I said is.
I agree. I
That's a
think
tough scenario.
it is a tough scenario, and we did go a couple of rounds speaking of this. I think the main thing that we want to also remember though is that we're trying to make this match the other ones, the other two ordinances, and it says it doesn't have that language necessarily in there. The substantially covered by an opaque canvas or similar type cover.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
has the mismatched language been holding up any enforcement?
Not that I'm currently aware of.
Okay, it hasn't been a problem because the languages don't match.
No, ma'am, but I think really we're just trying to take a stance and just make sure that we don't run into any issues with it in the future.
Yeah, I agree that they all need to align, but I just wonder if this is one reason or one good point why you don't start an ordinance or look at the ordinance in the middle of the ordinance. So I just wonder if everybody knows that back at the very beginning of chapter 17 in the general provisions, there's a paragraph about conflicts. And what it said, what the second sentence says is, whenever the provisions of any other statute require more restrictive standards than are required by this chapter, the provisions of such statutes shall govern. So that means chapter 7 nuisances trumps what we have in ours anyway.
It is more restrictive, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
I have more background information, but I guess I'll wait to do the comments. If I could, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk.
You can. I was just gonna let
Okay.
everybody cycle through, and then if you've got some more information. I tell you what, why don't you come up now and you've got further, then we can discuss that too.
I just give you a little bit more background information on the scenario. The property that she's talking about. There's more to it than just unlicensed vehicle. Some are parked facing, some are parked backed up. But these cars haven't been moved in a very long, long time. They're filled with trash. Trash becomes rats and mice and all those nice little things. So there is a problem, especially with this. This came to me when I was campaigning. And like you said, the language at first, it was just the fact that this one said it, all it had to do was cover, to be covered. So the code enforcer went out and even helped them cover it all up. Well, now they're all torn, okay? But saying it's covered doesn't match up, like you said, the other two sections where they talk about the same kind of language, but they say it either has to be enclosed in a garage or enclosed in the backyard where it can't be seen. So my initial thought was, if you're talking about the same topic, the language should be the same. So that's what I was heading for when I started all this. But certain states, and I did look up the state law as far as unregistered vehicles,
like where I came from in Maryland, you can't have an unregistered vehicle on the property at all. Even if you own the property, you cannot have it. It has to be registered. And there has to be a way that you can look up that information. But this particular property, why this person wants it is because all 3 vehicles are filled with trash. It's a nuisance. I mean, it's ugly. There's 2 houses down. Lady says this has been her second time trying to sell the house. And she's the one talking to me during the campaign. So the people come in and first thing they do is they see what's on the corner and they leave because they look at it as a problem property. So just in line that initially this was just a line of the same scenario with the same language. And how we ever move forward, maybe we have to work with the police department. But right now it looks even worse now, attempting to cover it, and now the covers are all torn. So, just so you understand where I'm coming from. These vehicles are not, it's horrible if you haven't been there.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I had a question for Heather. So what, in current state, what is our process if somebody called and made a complaint about this particular property? Are you saying there's no steps that we're doing?
No, if someone called and made a complaint, then Chris would go out and see, kind of check out the property, then he would actually try and speak with the homeowner. He's really good about making contact with the owner of the property or owner of the cars or what have you. And usually he tries to have a conversation with them to say, hey, this is the issue, we've had a complaint, is there something that you can do, a way that we can remediate this? And then they try to come up with some kind of plan together to get rid of that action or item, whatever the issue is. And that's pretty much the steps. Now, as we've been going through trying to get an abatement process started, we discussed that the other night at council, but it's where we've been trying to, any nuisance properties that we can go in and kind of clean them up as the town, that we have a legal right to go in and clean up certain areas, certain nuisances, be it cars, be it trash, bushes, what have you. So currently, these vehicles are in the process of, we're working with them, we've given them 30 days, or they've actually received a citation and they have to go before the judge and in the next month or 2 probably. So that's where we currently are with it. We try to work with the homeowner, try to speak with them, and then if we can't get anything moving, then recently we've started taking more action and more enforcement action by actually citing them, sending them to court, following the tickets, following the court procedure, or either our new abatement process, whichever one they fall under.
Do you think with, us moving forward more action stuff that this will remedy the problem, or do you think in the future we're going to continue to have the issues?
I think with code enforcement, you're always going to have issues like this.
Okay. Do you know how many violations we probably had due to abandoned vehicles in the town currently?
Right now, probably at least 4.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
is there any reason why we can't define this in one ordinance and just have the other ordinances refer to that one, so we only have one place to update it? Like, should we define this in the planning and zoning ordinance, or would it be better to define somewhere else? And let's just reference one spot in another town ordinance that just says,
You could do it that way
if you want derelict and unlicensed vehicles, go here.
You could do it that way.
That way we
If
don't
that's
run into this in
language
the
that,
future.
if that's something that we're interested in doing, you can do it that way and reference the other sections.
And I mean, just my thoughts when I was reading through this is this, to me, reads more through the lens of a business, less a residence. This is what we expect if you're gonna be using your real estate. If you're, we're planning and we're zoning accordingly, this is the kind of stuff that we expect you to be using your property for. Something like that where it's just negligence and, or just property mismanagement, that I don't know that belongs here. If we're getting into personal property, that's kind of outside the zone of what I feel like we do. Personal opinion, but I was just wondering if we could define it somewhere else and just refer there. Because we're gonna run into this probably for lot more than just here. Just looking through the code, but that was it.
It's just one kind of public nuisance.
Well, it seems the only public nuisance that we're referring to are the canvases and the covers. I mean, that's the only thing that's struck out, right? I mean, that's the only thing we're taking out of 17,427 is substantially covered by opaque canvas and similar type cover. It's in A and C. Is there any other strikeouts that I'm missing?
Mr. Chair,
So, yes, ma'am.
I think maybe what we're trying to get at is that Chapter 7 has a whole section on public nuisances and has the identical language to the zoning ordinance, except it doesn't talk about covers. So it's redundant in a sense. And they list it, but their public nuisances are, hedges and all kinds of other stuff, abandoned refrigerators and motor vehicles, just one of a laundry list of public nuisances there that we have carried into the zoning ordinance for some reason. It's a duplication, really.
So should we, I think what the two of y'all were saying, somehow combine these or put them in one ordinance form to reference nuisance vehicles? Or do we keep them separated? Or do we put all the nuisances together? Trying to figure out a solution without having Chapter 7 right here in front of us. And we can always talk about it again, but we missed last month talking about this, so,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
can I speak on?
Yes,
may I speak
sir.
on this? Okay. I understand the situation. I mean, it makes sense. It's a mess. It's blight. It's a nuisance. We are in a beach community, and years ago, before all this growth, people had boats, a lot of boats, vehicles, and on their property. And I think there's still some people who have lived here for many, many years who would see this and say, so I can't keep, something in my own yard if I cover it nicely, and, or, we're also in a community where there are retired people who might have a pretty old vehicle that they want to restore. And, it takes time. Once you hit 70 or 80, it's a little more difficult to work on vehicles. Substantially covered by an opaque canvas or similar type of cover. Like Alex was saying, you'd have to have a garage. I don't know how many garages that are here. One suggestion, though, this has nothing to do with the other ordinance, but to maybe add aesthetically pleasing, so it's not visually, a blight. Or, I mean, my understanding is, as far as the law, they've already been charged with blight or a nuisance, or, so that's already taken care of. I happen to know of some residents who are honest, law-abiding, flag-waving, God-fearing citizens that I think if we pass this, they would become low-life, illegitimate, immoral, shameful criminals. And one of those people might be sitting at this commission table here. Me. Okay. So, though I don't want to get into detail, but technically I think I'd be okay. But we're a beach community, and I mean, adding regulations and taking away loopholes, I mean, good God. We already are addressing the issue. I understand addressing the other ordinance, but how about we add this to the other ordinance and add keep aesthetically pleasing, or let's try to eliminate blight. Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I did have a question around moving your cars into the backyard. Is that actually written that way where you're fine if you sling your cars around back? Or is it?
I think it is written that way in one of the other ordinances. It's either in an enclosed structure or in the rear yard.
I have copies of it if you would like to see.
No,
Does it
I
say-
believe you. I
does
was
it say
just
that?
seeing if that
It
was the
says,
wording.
it doesn't say garage. It says stored inside of a completely enclosed permanent structure. So it doesn't say anything about backyard. At one time it did. One of the ordinance said it.
While you're looking, I asked because what I recall only saying was the word property or garage. I don't
This
recall ever
one.
seeing.
This one here says garage. The one that were, you guys, the 7. The other 2 does not. But nothing mentions backyard. House and enclosed garage. This says enclosed garage.
But nothing backyard. So,
Yeah.
not to sound be a smart aleck, but our solution to the problem property that caused this issue is to do something we're not even saying they're allowed to do. Like, nowhere have I seen, you're fine if it's in the backyard, which, if that's what it is, great. But we're solving the problem by
I think
moving
it
it out
was-
of eyesight.
Yeah, no, I think it was in an enclosed structure. Like, he's not just putting it in the backyard, he's putting it in an enclosed structure in the backyard. Sorry, I'm sorry. It sounded like I'm just saying he's just throwing it in the backyard. I apologize.
Completely
Directly
enclosed.
It's in an enclosed structure.
Like a fence, 6-foot fence.
Now,
Well,
I'm
Enclosed
guessing at
structure
that.
versus a fence.
It has,
My mind.
no, it's like an enclosed, like garage, not a garage, but an enclosed structure with 4 walls. You got a foundation and a roof over it.
So a fence doesn't count.
No, ma'am.
what would be your suggestion to how we fix this? Or do we fix it? Do we combine them? Do we, from an enforcement perspective, what's the easiest?
From an enforcement perspective, I think if you do in an enclosed garage, you're gonna have a lot more out of compliance. If that's something that you're requiring people to put it in an enclosed garage or an enclosed structure, because not everyone has an enclosed structure to put their vehicle in. I think that's where you might run into an issue. I think that's why the substantially covered by an opaque canvas or similar type cover was there, to kind of give you a little leeway and to leave it out, but to have it covered. But I'm, like Mr. Von Busick said, that, sorry,
Aesthetically pleasing,
that it's,
sorry.
I guess that's a matter of opinion too.
Yeah, that's subjective.
yeah, no, that language is way too subjective to be an ordinance.
I can come up with better language.
Yeah, we need some specific, very specific, that's the only thing as far as I see for enforcement though, is having, if you require an enclosed garage, then you're gonna run into, it's gonna cause more people to be out of compliance.
So what if you had a boat that was licensed? Could you put a cover on?
Currently, yes, but if you strike it out, it would have to be an enclosed garage as well.
So a license, a boat that's licensed with a motor on it,
Oh, as
Registered
long as
with the
it's
state of
licensed,
South
it's
Carolina.
good. Sorry,
okay, I was trying, you kind
but sorry about that, I'm reading.
of, okay, all right, okay. So what you're saying is if
You
it's
can cover that,
licensed,
It's licensed, you can cover it
okay.
right now.
I mean, because I know that is a pain and it looks bad because I have a boat and I have to buy about 2 covers a year.
Right.
Between the rain and the water sitting on it, tearing it, it doesn't look good, but I try to keep, new ones on it, but it is licensed and registered. Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
If something's covered, would we be able to tell if it's licensed or registered? If we can't see any identifying information? I mean,
It could be covered to the point where you couldn't see it.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I mean, again, that is, we're always talking about, are we gonna put something in play that is not enforceable? I'm not against doing this. I'm just, on the other side of it, if it's covered, we're not allowed to go on their property and uncover it and say, hey, is that, so.
Yeah. Yeah. But it sounds like we have done that and are doing that. Is that the case? You were referencing Chris was talking to a guy who had abandoned vehicles.
He goes and he tries to speak with the homeowners so that he can have a one-on-one conversation, and he'll ask them just straight out, like, what's the situation with this vehicle on, and he can tell you pretty much all the status of all the vehicles in the town and stuff. Like, that one has a flat tire, but it's licensed, it's registered, it can be moved and things like that. I just want the ordinances to match, or either we reference the ordinance, and like I said, I just think if we leave it, if we do strike it out, it's going to cause compliance issues, and it's gonna be hard to enforce.
I don't have a problem with lining them up, putting them together. It's just trying to visualize those two here. I would like to see them incorporated together, potentially, and bring it back and let's look at it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I think that we need to, our planning director is saying though, I mean, obviously, clearly, she's saying that there's a concern about how many people are gonna be out of compliance if we do this, and that it could cause difficulties. So I think we need to, we need to really think about it. If she's saying that, that's kind of a big deal to me.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
aren't these people we're talking about already out of compliance with Chapter 7 nuisances, which doesn't allow covers? Chapter 7 trumps Chapter 17. It's more restrictive. It doesn't say covers, so they're already out of compliance with the other ordinance.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
this did hit a nerve. I spoke to a few people in Surfside, and one person said, commented, so are we becoming a expletive HOA here now? So it becomes personal. I do believe that if we could somehow, make, if you're reading one ordinance and you say, see, I can do this. And then but you have to read this ordinance to know that you can't do this in this ordinance. So I think I agree, combining the language would be helpful. But knowing that we already have the blight and nuisance thing covered, maybe we're semi-okay as long as we can figure out the language of what we can control.
Yeah, well, to me, that's what it's about, enforcement. We can spend a lot of time, but if these guys can't enforce it on the street, it's not worth it.
And just make people angry,
Yeah.
including me.
It's under nuisances, under 746, under D, it says any motor vehicle that is unregistered, inoperable, derelict, or abandoned on any street or right of way or any other public or private property unless vehicle is stored inside of a completely enclosed permanent structure.
It's been on the books forever.
So how do a lot of the ordinances?
So no matter
So I
what,
guess we're figuring a garage is the same thing as a enclosed structure?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
no matter what we do to chapter 17, chapter 7 is still sitting there saying they can't have covers. We gotta change one or the other. I agree.
Yes.
Well, 7 takes precedent, so.
Yeah. So even if we, it doesn't matter that 17 says they can have covers because chapter 7 says they can't.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to adjust section 17-427 and chapter 7 to state that one unregistered vehicle is allowed in the garage or covered in good order for residents or property.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion?
For me, it's the least evil. We allow it. If people don't have a garage and are restoring a car and can't get it registered because it's not street ready, I don't want to overreach, but I also I don't think most people would like 3 cars sitting there collecting dust without registration in the front yard either. So it's a happy medium, and the insult to injury is it's still not enforceable. If someone wants to talk to Chris, that's great. But if I was in a bad mood and you came to my house and I happen to have a car, I could just say, sorry, please exit my property. And there's nothing the town can do. That's silly, but if someone wanted to be difficult, there is nothing the town can do.
With the trash.
Unless you want to make the case that it's creating rats or anything else. I agree, I don't want it either. I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't want it across the street from me, but if it's not enforceable, it's really hard to come up with a logical solution.
Can you state the motion again, please?
Change 17-427 and add to chapter 17 that,
Seven.
thank you, 7, that one unregistered vehicle is allowed either in a garage or covered in good order for property.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
is, in your opinion, is that too subjective or
I think, we would just have to tighten up the language where you say in good order that it needs to be maintained free of rips, tears, stuff like that. It would need more specific, a little more specific, but I would bring that, you could review the language.
do you feel that like that's manageable?
Mhm.
Okay.
I could jump. You could even write and landscaping maintained. That might be the gotcha moment where if there's weeds under or growing through the rims, that's an obvious one that the car hasn't been moved and they can't do anything about it. Then you can't get a gotcha on the registration.
I do think it's important to protect people who are living next door to places that are like this as best we can, that they're not having problems. But we do have a lot of houses that don't have garages and
Well, some of your smaller lots too, down on the south end, you don't have room for a garage. There's 60 and 70-foot lots.
they can't add one
On
if they
top,
want to.
especially with your lot coverage requirements and everything. But I think, I agree, I think this is not exactly what we want, but it's probably as far as we should push the envelope. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Business item B, vape shop ordinance language. Okay, Ms. Heather, your turn again.
On the vape shop language, I know last month, or the last time we met, we discussed the moratorium. We got initial guidance that told us no on the moratorium. It was just a flat no, that we couldn't do the moratorium. We didn't have any more information. This past week at council, I was asked about the moratorium, and I did not have any other information because the last thing that I heard from the legal was just no. So we followed up with legal, and we actually got the answer today. And so when a moratorium is being discussed, the statements were being indicated, no more vape shops in Surfside Beach. However, is indicated a temporary moratorium with a sunset clause until changes can be made by the planning commission keeps it in the legal realm. And that sunset clause that they mentioned is about 4 to 6 months. So you could have a temporary moratorium put a time limit of say 6 months on it. And then that would give you, 6 months to work on the language and stuff. I actually got that information right before I came to the meeting. But I did include the vape shop language that we discussed last time in the matrix that Mr. Samsel created for us to review it and have discussion on it. But if y'all would like to move forward with a moratorium, that's something that the language will change to say the commission initiated the temporary moratorium, and then we would put 4 to 6 months, and I'm gonna say 6 months because we want it on the larger side so we can have enough time. And then it would be due to not the current number of existing uses, but based on it doesn't align with our comprehensive plan, in being we want to remain the family beach, and this is not a type of business use that really promotes the family beach atmosphere. So if that's something that y'all are interested in, we can move forward with that. I don't have a draft of the language, like I say, because I got it right before I came, but I could work on the language tomorrow and send it out to you all and have it submitted for council next week if that's something you are interested in. I wanted that to be the first point that I made.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
did the lawyer give you any indication whether there's a rule against extending that moratorium when 6 months is up?
He didn't say anything.
Good.
Yeah, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
not pop the bubble of the moratorium, but we've had well over 12 months to figure this out, and we still haven't recommended anything to council. I don't think 6 months is gonna do anything for us.
Keep it going.
I mean, we could, but, I mean, to me, I think just zoning it off Sandy Lane until we come up with something a little more complete does the exact same thing as the moratorium. And at this point, I feel like we're spinning our wheels. When, if we just say, define it, send it off to Sandy Lane, and then if we ever want to limit it further from there, we can within whatever legal ability we have, or whenever the Columbia figures out what they're gonna do, but get something in council's hands to figure out. I just don't see us coming up with something in 6 months. Because we still don't have complete legislation in Columbia to define it, so.
It's not gonna happen anytime soon either.
So you got your hands up.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I guess I agree with Michael. My only thought about that is, yes, we have been spinning our wheels, but we have been somewhat left to our own accord. We have not had Heather. And I am hopeful that we're gonna have some, good direction and some good input, and that potentially we might be able to, if you're the law, until the law is really decided, we're not gonna be able to do anything. But a moratorium would say, okay, stop it right now and give us some time to at least think about it some more and make sure that we're making the right decision. And it's something we could do immediately. How soon?
I could draft the language and send it to you tomorrow, and then hopefully if everyone approved that language, then it could go before, it could go for council next week.
Do we need to have another meeting, or is that something that can?
You could make a motion to approve the moratorium, as I presented it for the temporary moratorium, because the language isn't changing. Only language that's changing is a temporary moratorium instead of an definite
Okay.
moratorium.
Okay.
And then the reason is that the last time I had the current number of existing uses, and this time will be that doesn't align with our comprehensive plan. So if that's something y'all could approve, for say that language that you want to move forward with the moratorium and approve that, and then we can get it moving that way. Or if you want, we could have like a special meeting and review the moratorium again, but that would put it again, you'd be pushing it off again.
Are we technically able to do it without it being a published item on our agenda?
Yes, ma'am, because we're discussing
Because we're discussing it,
Yes,
that covers
ma'am.
it, okay,
We're covered.
all right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have a question. Are we currently in a moratorium now? No,
No.
we've just been speaking of it, so as of today, we
It
have to
would-
conduct business.
It would, yeah.
Okay, all right, so I was going to say, if we're under a moratorium currently, we could wait until next meeting, but I understand, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to verify we don't need a public hearing on this, right?
No, ma'am, because it's gonna have to go, it would have to go through council.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
if we're confident in the language in the moratorium, talking about the business and identifying the business, wouldn't we also be confident in just adding that language and just saying, if you are this, Sandy Lane? I mean, we can do both with the moratorium too, if we want. We can set a moratorium and go ahead and say, all right, well, if the moratorium falls off, it's at least in Sandy Lane. I don't know what the number is that's opened up since we've started talking about this, but it's not zero.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I don't think at this point we've aligned on Sandy Lane versus a quantity limit regardless of location. So there's a couple options out there. At least the moratorium will let us walk through those. I'll also say that from a timeline perspective, over a year ago, we talked about, to your point, we talked about light industrial. Then we shifted to, let's get the comp plan done, include light industrial in the comp plan as potential. Comp plan was completed at the start of this year. We started exploring light industrial and started looking at some language around vape shops. I don't think we should collapse in legalization of cannabis in with vape shops. They're currently two distinct things, so we should keep them separate. And I thought to date that's how our language was. Then we shifted away from light industrial. I think we actually voted on no light industrial, and we requested the director at that time to create language around adjusting the ordinance to limit pigeonhole vape shops on the Sandy Lane, despite Sandy Lane not being light industrial. And the last action on that was pending that language returning back to us as a body. So I do take a little bit of exception of the notion that we were floundering for a year. I mean, there was work done. Sadly, it's still ongoing, but I don't think we were tripping over ourselves for a year on the subject. And we did have a directive to request a certain direction of the town.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
All right, that sounded a little more harsh than I meant it to come out. I don't mean, when it says
They're
spinning
sleep
wheels.
deprived.
Well, we've been running into legitimate roadblocks. And I spoke to council and I said, hey, we can't come to a cohesive recommendation to y'all because, X, Y, Z, and we can't get these answers. I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. To me, I feel like we have the capability to do something, and something might be better than waiting for full answers. at this point, because I feel like we could easily spend another 12 or 24 months or whenever Columbia wants to decide whatever they want to do, and then by then we're getting more information in and new studies, and then, that information is going to be changing. I'm sure the legality surrounding it's going to change after it's whatever is continuing to move into the future. So I'm just trying to think what would have put us in a better position today,
Mr. Chair.
12 months ago.
Yes, sir.
I'll also add, thank you. I'll also add that I believe this body was left with the impression that no new additional vape shops would open because they're not an approved business type. Since then, the notion of convenience store has crept in. So I was operating under the assumption that no more, we need to figure out how to allow it to happen, because if there was ever litigation, technically we need to allow it in some capacity because it's an approved business in the state. But as of this moment, no more until we figure this out. So this was not, hey, we didn't do anything and more popped up because of inaction. This was an understanding that no new vape shop should open, and then the convenience store concept came into play. And there was an open question in our last meeting about that 50% of sales versus square footage versus inventory quantity. Did you happen to get any insight on that?
The numbers came from Scott, our building inspector at the time, and Jared, our legal attorney. He gave us the advice on that. That was his advice, given the percentage, the numbers.
But the percentage of what is what we're left with?
What is the product?
We didn't know, so that was the
Yeah,
question
it was
was,
the product.
what was that, product sales or product inventory?
It was product inventory.
The value of the inventory,
Just, I think the number of,
quantity of
yeah,
inventory.
quantity of inventory.
So then we could close down the newest shop. Like we could walk in tomorrow and close it down. If it's quantity of inventory, like they've got 20 t-shirts, 3 circus hats, and milk, and a couple of Pepsis, and thousands of.
Yes, sir, and we have been dealing with the current one, for some other violations as well.
Is it possible just to like verify for sure that it's quantity of inventory?
I will verify that to make
Right there.
sure.
I'm not trying to be nitpicky, it's just.
No,
that-
I
that
will
changes,
verify
like,
and make
how we
sure,
look at
yeah.
it, 'cause
I will verify with, I'll follow up with legal again, just to make sure that that was what they, and maybe you can provide additional insight that I wasn't privy to.
So, last couple of points, if I may. We're gonna move forward with the moratorium. And it's a great example of asking the question twice, and getting 2 different answers. Right, keeping pressing, so great job, Director, of pushing a little further to get past the no to, yeah, we can do it with the sunset clause. The second part is needing to figure out, do we do this based upon geography? Do we do it based upon count? Do we do it based upon zone? And with any of those, are the existing grandfathered in? Are the existing forced to shut down? If they sell the existing in either of those scenarios, is the business transferable, right? There's some nuances in there that we need to walk through. So if you want, we could walk through, maybe get closer to eliminating some options.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we've got some really good, from a geography, limited geography, limited, yeah. Easy for me to say. Limited to C1, not facing business 17, not facing residential, potential distant limits, which could be 1,500 feet. I'm, except for what you were just talking about, existing stay. And I agree with the moratorium because I think this process could drag on. We don't initiate a moratorium tonight. By the time you have to do your paperwork. By the time it has to go to council, by the time it has to have second reading, and then if there's gonna have to be a legal review, then we know that's gonna be another 2 or 3 months. So I think we've got some really good outlines to follow on this chart. So, I hate to think, I don't hate to think, but moratorium is a little extreme, but I think with what we're facing and what we have faced in the past, we need to shut this down right now. So that's my opinion.
May I say?
Yes, sir.
Just one little comment. Somebody mentioned that if we put in place a moratorium, then we're doing nothing for another 6 months, which, in my opinion, having a moratorium is actually doing something. It's eliminating things that are continuing on right now. So it's actually doing something, not sitting back and doing nothing. And I agree. I think there's a lot to work through here. And we did discuss it quite a bit, but the moratorium gives us an opportunity to work things out, and it gives us some time. And it stops other things from happening.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see us vote on the moratorium right now tonight. And also right now tonight, schedule a workshop to get into the language for the rest of it. Not let us get into the attitude of, oh, we've got a moratorium, so we don't have to worry about it for a while. Let's schedule a workshop to work on it sometime within the month, let's say.
I agree. That was my thought. Just because we got 6 months, I don't want to take 6 months. I want to get this done, get it out of the way, and move on. Well, I can't make a motion for the moratorium.
Don't we need the language though? For the moratorium?
Let me take a shot at it. I move that planning commission approve a 6-month moratorium on any new vape shops, I hope that language will work, being established within the town. I think that's it. Do I need to say anything else? 6-month moratorium on any new vape shops within Surfside Beach.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to amend the motion. I'd like to add.
Let me get a second first. Okay, we got a second.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to amend to include cannabis dispensing businesses, smoke shops, and tobacco stores.
Do I have a second on the amendment? Have a second. Back to the original motion discussion on the moratorium for 6 months for vape shops.
Mr. Chair, I just want to make sure that the public hearing is not required because,
Not for planning commission, because we're making a recommendation to council and they would have to go through the public hearing. They'd have to do the 2 readings of public
Does that include if they say / convenience store?
hearing.
They're all convenience stores.
I'm not gonna, no.
Mr. Chair,
Michael?
I think it would only be if their majority of their inventory consists of one of those 3 items. So it could be, you can open up a gas station, I think that'd be fine. Because it would be the majority of their inventory. At least that was my understanding of it. By square footage, I think. Or count, I don't
Yeah,
remember.
there's a percentage procedure that we need to go by. I think we talked about that earlier, and you were gonna find out percentage on that. Okay. Any more discussion on the original motion?
We're back in the same boat. I want to open up a convenience store tomorrow. I can get right around your moratorium.
No, we're not.
No, sir, that's not gonna be, the case actually, because you're gonna, I'm gonna move forward in a different manner than say, right now that I totally understand, like, the situation, I'm here, I've been here, I established the loopholes, I'm finding the loopholes, I know the loopholes and things like that. You're not as, if you come in wanting to be a convenience store, at this point, you're calling it a vape shop, but a convenience store, like, we're not allowed, no, we're not gonna play these,
I think that 50% was bad guidance.
I think it was too, and that's not something that I necessarily want us to continue with. So no, the best that I can tell you is no, I can assure you personally that that will not happen again because I'm here and I'm in the seat now and like I said, I understand certain things and the way things are supposed to be going and I can assure you, I can tell you no.
Maybe to put all minds at ease in the moratorium, there could be a statement saying vape shops operating as a convenience store in name only will be considered a vape shop subject to this moratorium. Just to, like,
I agree with that.
why did they get it versus that?
Yeah. I like that.
Plug any holes there are.
Yes, ma'am.
Any more discussion on the original motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carries. We have an amendment to also include cannabis smoke shops and
And
Tim
tobacco
wasn't
stores.
writing fast enough.
Cannabis dispensing businesses, smoke shops, and tobacco stores.
Okay. Any discussion on the amended motion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Easy enough.
Easy.
Now we gotta schedule that workshop.
I'll be quick with the discussion item. It was amended earlier. I had a lunch with Tom Banish about 5 weeks ago, and we discussed at length how planning and zoning and how the business committee could work together to improve the business environment in Surfside Beach. As we all know, the business committee was created 10 odd years ago as a platform for businesses to come to with their complaints, with, how they were being treated, how the permitting process was bad, blah, blah, blah. So the business committee wanted to sit, and we thought maybe just bring the two committees together, a little round table workshop, something kind of informal, so we can they can ask us questions because they had a lot of questions about Chapter 17 and, what's legal, what's not legal, how do they help business owners as they come in and ask questions. So I was like, absolutely, I'll bring it to planning and zoning. We'll discuss maybe an alternate date from what we normally do, or we could do it in their time slot. I mean, whatever's y'all's schedules work better. I told them it might be better for us because we're already scheduled. Maybe do it on our meeting date, especially if we don't know of what we'll have on the agenda for next month. Maybe try to do that next month.
Okay.
I mean, if that's, like I said, I told Tom I would bring it to this commission. That's, like I say, a discussion item just to, I know We've been encouraged to work with each other, try to make this a better place. I think this is a great opportunity. So if that's okay with everybody, if I have, just get a consensus that we're good with that? Everybody good? Okay. Well, so I'll stay in touch with you. I'll talk to Tom and try to, and see, if it's good for them next month, and we'll kind of play it by ear, depending on what we got going on, because I think this might take up a little while.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just my thought on it. I'm open to an extra meeting. I think we have a lot of things lingering still that we've worked on and still lingering as far as things we need to review as far as signed ordinance. I know we already did the land use chart. We did a lot of work, but not a lot of action out of it. So my thought would, and I'm not speaking for everybody, I understand we all have our obligations, and I'm a very busy man too, but I feel like this may take some time with the business committee of just listening to their concerns and making sure we're hearing everything and aligning with them. I think additional meeting and then also our regular meeting would be suitable for myself, so.
What if we did like a 5 o'clock workshop before our 6 o'clock meeting? What do you think?
To do it.
That we do? Okay. All right. Well, I'll touch base with Tom, and I'll let everybody know kind of what the game plan's gonna be. But good deal.
Mr. Chairman, would then there be a limit between 5 and 6, and then we would proceed with our regular?
Yes.
Okay.
Try not to cut it quite that, that close. Yes, ma'am.
I don't mean to pile on, but if you recall, the other part of my moratorium now was to also schedule a special meeting to get into this vape language or vape location stuff.
Mhm.
If we're gonna do the business committee at the next October meeting, maybe we can find a time between now and then to proceed with this vape shop issue discussion.
Okay. That's another thing I'll coordinate whenever Heather's ready with the language, then we'll pull the trigger. We won't need 24 hours, so whenever you get ready, we'll be ready. Right? Okay. Public comments. Mr. Kinkin. Mr. Citizen Kinkin.
How are y'all this evening? Thank you for being here.
Good.
I have a question. The question was, how do you verify a car whether it's licensed or not? You can't see license. Well, can't the county tell you what licensed vehicles are on a piece of property? Well, anyway, I don't know the answer. But also, does this policy you're looking at, their vehicles, apply to businesses? I counted 13 cars unlicensed on one property, and the other property, they offer vehicles for sale. Don't know if any of them are licensed or not. It's not a used car lot. It's there's a word for it, and I can't. But anyway, it offers vehicles for sale, but the property doesn't own, the individuals own it, he's just selling them for them. So I hope it doesn't apply, because they're two eyesores in town and they're businesses. And please don't forget the overlay. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Sean Fallon, 411 State Drive North. When you guys are talking about the vape shops, I was also approached about, are we ever going to be down the road and start limiting the same type of business? And the reason why this came about, like, look how many golf cart places we have. Like in Myrtle Beach, they do limit how many types of, like, for example, golf carts. They get to a point and they say, no more. They have a limit on each type of business. And it was asked to me, are we ever going to go down that road? And I don't know. So when you talk about limiting the vape shops and everything, are we going to continue that theme with other businesses, business types. So it's just something to think about. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
My turn.
All these citizens.
Chris Henning, 715 Cedar Drive North. I want y'all to consider a whole lot about this deal with these tags and cars and whatever, because as Mr. Sampson said, it's gonna be hard to go out on somebody's property and check for car tags or boat tags or anything. And when you do, somebody's gonna be in trouble if you go on property that don't belong to you. So you better think about this really, really seriously, because right now there's a new house being built in Surfside. And they are a van sitting in front of this new house that's being built, been sitting there for 6 months. And it don't have a tag on it whatsoever. Ain't nobody done nothing about it. So, you know, the property owner or whoever's building this house, who's responsible for that car? There ain't no tag on it. You ain't no way you can find out who it belongs to. You can have it towed away. But you better think about that really hard when you go to making decisions on how to handle these cars. And from what I understood what you said a while ago, now this is my understanding of it just a minute ago, that you can only have one car that's got no tag on it. I have a building that I can put 3 cars in. But if you come to my house and I've got 3 cars sitting there with no tag, you're gonna tell me I'm gonna have to get rid of 2 of them? You're gonna have problems. Because then I'm gonna be like Mr. Sampson said, you ain't gonna be coming on my property. Tell me how many cars that I can have that don't have a tag on. Because I restore cars. I like to work on cars. And I can't get a tag or license for that car until you get it if you go on the highway. So just be careful what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Everybody good? All right. Commission comments?
I got a couple, just kind of,
Keep it under 15.
I think council would need to vote on anything that we did, so keep that in mind. The intention behind the one was one covered vehicle. What's in someone's garage is in someone's garage, as far as I'm concerned. As far as you can look up Horry County tax records you can find people who have registered vehicles and pay taxes. You can't do the inverse. So you can find the people we're not looking for. You can look me up by name, find out what I paid in vehicle taxes and registration fees. But you can't say blue Silverado at this address, and you can't find that I did not pay taxes. Because that Silverado could be registered at a house in Charlotte, and it's just parked there. But you can't prove anything off of tax records. So it's like kind of like the inverse of that. My understanding of the ordinance around the parking was, we didn't stipulate residential versus commercial, so it would apply to businesses. There is a carve out if you're in the automobile business, you're allowed to have unregistered vehicles there. I think it's specific to dealers and repair shops, that type of stuff. So the way that we voted on it, it would apply to one unregistered vehicle in a garage or covered, or if it's in a garage and it's unknown, for businesses or residential property. That's how the motion, being that the motion didn't stipulate one or the other, it was just a blanket statement. And related to other businesses such as golf cart, 40% golf cart places, I think we're able to limit the quantity of vape cannabis tobacco shops because it's under the umbrella of health, quality of life, and general welfare. It falls into that category where we could say, oh, we're putting limits on it because it impacts those quality of life issues, where a golf store may not fall into that. And that would prevent us from putting a limit on it. But somehow Myrtle got away with
I was gonna
only
say,
having, 2
I have
scooter
reached
rental
out to
places.
someone, actually this week regarding limiting businesses, the business types by number or whatever,
Right.
to say. So hopefully I get some more information, moving forward on how that.
Yeah, that makes
How
sense
Myrtle
for us
Beach
to look
did
at.
it and things like that. So I have reached out to a couple of people, so I have to get some more information on that.
That'd be good to know. That's all I have.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so just talking a little bit about the business limit as well. I mean, I agree to a certain extent as far as too many golf cart places or not, but we have a lot of vacancies on business 17, so therefore, do we want to occupy those spaces or do we not? So we're probably making revenue off the rental agreements and everything off those businesses. So we talk a lot about being business friendly, so I'd be mindful in that. If 17 was full and we were operating great, maybe that would be an issue, but at this current time, we have a lot of vacancies on 17. As long as the buildings are maintained and look decent and we're making some kind of revenue as a town, I think that shouldn't be a concern.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Hey, there was a pause.
Yeah, I'm sorry. CB.
Catch his breath.
So Heather, another mention, I know you're talking about limiting spacing and everything with Myrtle Beach. I noticed Myrtle Beach uses a 10% per space per square foot to determine the CBD. So
Okay.
when I was doing research, you may need to speak with them about that too, because
Okay.
I don't know where the 50% come from. I would say that's just something we were able to do to push it through. But I do know they use a 10% per square footage of the building to allow CBD in a non-CBD vape shop store. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. I'm going to piggyback on the piggyback about the limiting business. I'm not an advocate of limiting business. I think businesses thrive and they grow, and the ones that are successful become successful, and the ones that work hard, they do well, the others may not. But in this particular case, under this Division 7, Section 17440, there's something that, in my opinion, is why we're looking to limit. It says, due to the direct relationship between products offered at these establishments and an increase in criminal activity and disturbances of the peace and good order, etc., that is why this particular type of business, in my opinion, we're trying to limit and be careful and hone in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Real quick, Director made mention of a lawsuit in Myrtle Beach, and had some language that potentially we could refer back to. I sent you the lawsuit. I don't know if you had a chance to review it or not, but I think it's specific to the historic district, the OB, I think it's the OBED, OBEOD, and the boundaries. And the lawsuit specifically stated that they were only moving them from that district, not from the rest of the ordinance. So I thought that had some interesting language here if we ever have to talk about this in regards to the peer district, E-district, whatever it is officially. I can't remember. But, or, Sandy Lane or, 17, we talk about generalized areas a lot, and that would be something really good to refer back to. I have a copy I can send anyone. It's public record.
Thank you, sir. Everybody good? Have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion, have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I figured we needed a discussion. Thank you.